Nearly 4 hours of testimony wrapped up in Carson City tonight as state lawmakers press for answers on police policies and procedures within the Clark County School District.
You may remember this. Caught on body camera at Durango High School. Caught on a cell phone camera, actually. A school district officer seen slamming a student to the ground. Fox 5's Mike Allen is live at Durango High School right now with a recap of the hearing.
Yes, lawmakers were quick to say this is not a gotcha kind of hearing. They called it an open dialogue, but still some pretty tough questions for CCSD officials as to why such a violent reaction from a police officer happened at the high school right behind me.
Officers seem to be more comfortable using force than other techniques.
Dallas Harris, Chief Majority Whip of the Nevada Senate, one of a handful of lawmakers grilling Clark County School District Wednesday about the violent takedown of a student at Durango High School in February.
Officers, in my opinion, should either be equally trained on the ability to talk and deal with students as they are enforced.
While the Education Committee showed this video of what happened near Durango High, that's about the most information people would get from the hearing about it.
While we can see the incident that brought us all here, we are not going to ask questions about the incident specifically because it is an ongoing investigation.
Even so, a former CCSD special education teacher and former county commissioner wants answers for the incident.
If I, as a classroom teacher, had thrown a kid down on the ground and had put my knee on their back, I would have been terminated immediately.
CCSD Police Chief Mike Blackeye talked about use of force policies, police training, and an 80% drop in referrals of students to juvenile justice. Chief Blackeye was asked by one lawmaker how the legislature can help police and was apparently thrown off by what he called a positive question.
I've been a cop for a long time, not used to being asked the question about how can we help you. Really not.
Blackeye did have an idea to increase transparency at his department, though.
Why not have a task force for internal affairs processes, for the handling of complaints of misconduct or allegations of misconduct for officers that would be handled by an agency, not an agency, but a task force.
The General Counsel for the Police Officers Association of CCSD had kind words for the department Wednesday, recalling a swift response to a gun found on campus.
It was within 30 minutes, less than 30 minutes, they had located the student, apprehended him, and secured the gun. And like everybody else, I was grateful that they are so aggressive, that they are so professional.
Superintendent Jesus Jara also defending CCSD police.
We got a lot of work to do. We're not perfect as a school system or as a police department, but I do have confidence in our chief and our officers.
CCSD police have still not answered the question of why the officer came up to the student in that video in the first place. Live at Durango High School, Mike Allen, Fox 5 News, local Las Vegas.
Meanwhile, the ACLU is threatening legal action if CCSD does not release body camera video, saying if requested public records are not released in 30 days, they will take the matter to court. Fox 5's attorneys are also involved to get the information.